Mike McCafferty is believed to have been a victim of a murder. And the people that committed this murder are the people who surrounded Mike McCafferty around the time of his death. And I base this on the reason that this is exactly what they're attempting to do to me. I have been an ongoing victim of the MK Ultra program. And as soon as they killed Mike McCafferty, none other than his girlfriend, Kelly Marsh, also known as Kelly Laughinghouse, decided to come over to my house and try to hit on me and arrange so that she could move in to my condo in Brookfield. And that was all set up by Josh Medina, also known as Eric Rosenzweig, who had a picture of Mike McCafferty. He had a photograph of Mike McCafferty in a shoebox filled with photographs. So the way this happens is that agents of the MK Ultra program, who are from Europe, they are from countries like England and Germany. In the United States, they act as celebrities and politicians, and in their free time, they use one of their many identities to approach regular citizens in the surrounding area, in the area around New York City, in the area around Hollywood, and they meet regular citizens. They meet regular citizens who they plan on targeting. And one of these people were believed to be Mike McCafferty's father. So Laura McCafferty, number one, has been identified to be Melissa Etheridge, the singer Melissa Etheridge. She met and married Mike McCafferty's father. I believe that Mike McCafferty's father was a regular person. He was a middle-class American. And I remember hearing that Mike McCafferty's father had died. And I said, how did he die? And the person said he died of old age, or he just got old. I cannot exactly remember who told me that, but it was probably either Kelly Marsh or Josh Medina or Mike Servideo, also known as Eric Rosenzweig, John Stewart, and Jason Stewart. Mike Servideo is an identity that several agents of the MK Ultra program will use. That is what the MK Ultra program always does when they approach and they target regular citizens. That is their practice. They are mentally very dumb. They have extremely low IQs. They have mild mental retardation. And this is due to the practice of incest in these aristocrat families, in these extremely wealthy families that want to keep their wealth and the secrets of their secret societies within their class of people. Whenever they marry a regular middle-class person, that person will always wind up a victim or dead, because regular people do not get along well with these aristocrat families, with the nobility, because the nobility, these extremely wealthy people, are evil. Their practices are evil, and they're all involved in murder, ritual murder, lynchings, child molestation, incest, and the only thing that they're interested in doing is stealing from people. They see anything of any worth, they set out to steal it. That is how they've made their money for centuries. And all of these people are raised as child prostitutes. They're all involved in these religious, occult, secret societies that are controlled by the chiefs of Judaism, the bishops and the cardinals of Roman Catholicism. And both of those religions, Judaism and Roman Catholicism, has its roots in pagan religion. That's all Judaism and Roman Catholicism is it is a modern form of paganism. So the last thing that these priests and these rabbis are celibate. They know that they have to program the younger members of the secret society. The young brothers and the sisters have to be programmed by the fathers and the mothers, by the head priests, by the chiefs, to be exactly like them. And that is done, that programming is done through child molestation, through sexual abuse. And the children are taught that they become married to their order, to that religious occult society, by having sex with multiple members of that community, with hundreds, if not thousands of members of that community. That is what they are involved in. So after Mike McCafferty was murdered, he is believed to have been murdered. After Mike McCafferty was murdered, the only other person in his family that was a regular person possibly was his daughter named Taylor McCafferty. Mike McCafferty's father may have died before Mike McCafferty. You cannot believe these obituaries that they're writing on the internet. So the only person that Mike left behind was his little daughter, Taylor McCafferty. And her mother was Kelly Marsh, also known as Kelly Laughinghouse, who was a member of this secret society that targeted Mike McCafferty's family. So knowing what I know about these people, the real Taylor McCafferty, the daughter of Mike McCafferty, is believed to be a missing person. She was probably also killed. I do not think Taylor McCafferty lasted long with a mother like Kelly Marsh. I think that these people, these high-level members of their secret society, they believe that they have to turn their firstborn child over to their group in order to maintain their standings in that group. I think that these people, these high-level members of their secret society, hand over more than just their firstborn child to their order, to their secret society, to be killed in a human sacrifice. I think they do that again and again and again. And they do that by marrying regular people, producing children with them. And if that is the firstborn child to that man, that the female cult member married, then that will be his firstborn child. So these female agents will meet and marry, I don't know, a dozen regular men, have children with a dozen of those men, and then hand over all of those children to their secret society to get raped and killed after they kill their husband. And these young women that were raised as child prostitutes have no problem doing that. The same with the young men that were raised as child prostitutes. They have no problem doing that either. Meeting young women, marrying them, producing children with them, and then killing their wife, and then taking their son or daughter and handing it over to their group to be tortured, raped, and killed. The people that think that this is normal or an acceptable way to live are inbred. They also have high levels of Neanderthal DNA. They are basically Neanderthals. The Neanderthal did not go extinct. And a common trait of a modern day Neanderthal is that they are exceptionally short. They are extremely short people because the Neanderthal has a lot of chimpanzee DNA. So they're not that tall. So I want to discuss this photograph that is found on Kelly Marsh's Facebook page. The strange thing is, all of these people in this photograph look very familiar to me, and I have seen them all before. I even lived in the same building as this guy on the left. He was introduced to me as Vinny in spring of 2013 when I moved into a tenement house in Derby, Connecticut. And he is mentioned in a documentary, an investigation I did called the Naugatuck State Forest Incident. And I have a playlist on this channel that has all the videos and related videos to the Naugatuck State Forest Incident. So I did not have a photograph of Vinny, so I did my best to illustrate him from memory. I did this documentary in October of 2014, so I did my best to illustrate the people in that tenement house because I did not have all their photographs. But this is Vinny. I stayed at that tenement house from spring until winter of 2013. I think I was there 8 or 9 months. And Vinny looked like he was in his 40s. He was a little bit older than I was. And he looks as if he's gained a little bit of weight. His face is a little bit wider. And he's a little bit stockier than he was in 2013. Next, there are these two guys that look like they could be twin brothers. In any case, they look very much alike. But I've seen both of these guys before. So I saw this guy wearing a graduation cap and gown in Portland, Connecticut around March of 2015. And I was going door to door, handing out flyers that advertised my book. I have a website with all types of videos concerning the book I wrote. And I was having trouble publicizing it on the internet. So I decided to go door to door, handing out flyers with my website information on it. So I would select towns at random. I had a lottery system and where I wrote 20 or 30 towns on cards, and I would pick a card at random, and that was where I would go hand out flyers that day. So I wound up around Portland, Connecticut, and I would park my car and I would walk all around the area, knocking on everybody's door and handing out flyers. And as fate would have it, I knocked on the door and this individual came to the door, and I spoke to him about my book for a moment, and then he took a flyer. I remember in the driveway there was a dark pickup truck with a medical symbol on the back of it. I don't know if it said paramedic or EMT, but there was a medical symbol or an emergency responder sticker on the back of his dark truck. It was a dark blue pickup truck, and that was around March of 2015. Then 8 months later, in October of 2015, I'm up in New Hampshire. By then I have relocated to my new house in New Hampshire, and I used my lottery system to select a town in New Hampshire at random so that I could go door to door publicizing my book. And I selected Claremont, and again I picked a road at random using a lottery system, using dice cubes, and I got a road called Chandler Mills Road that runs along the Sugar River. So this area became the subject of an investigation called the Sugar River Cult, and that documentary can be found on this channel. So as I was walking up Chandler Mills Road, I was about 1 mile up from the main road, and I saw the same individual that I saw in Portland, Connecticut, walking around a dark truck. But here he is up in New Hampshire on Chandler Mills Road, and he is walking around his truck, and it looks like he is loading or unloading things from his truck. It was a dark blue pickup truck. Then I saw the individual standing behind him. I saw him in February of 2020, and he was at the Convenient MD Urgent Care and Walk-In Center, and that is located on Winchester Street in Keene, New Hampshire. So my daughter had twisted her ankle in a basketball game. So my ex-wife Rachel had me pick up my daughter Eliza and drive her over to the Convenient MD Urgent Care and Walk-In Center. So this individual was there working as a medical tech or a nurse. He had on dark blue scrubs like a nurse would wear. So I don't know if he was a medical tech or a nurse, but he came in and he took my daughter's vital signs and some basic information that he typed into a computer before the doctor or the physician's assistant came in to see my daughter. So this individual was seen in Keene in February of 2020. And last, I saw this individual in Shelton, Connecticut in December of 2012. And at that time, I was living at my dad's house. And he walked downstairs and he said to me and your stepmom are going out for the day. So we're leaving shortly. But the oil guy is coming today. And I said, fine. Then I heard him leaving. So about a half hour or hour later, I heard a rumbling in the driveway. It sounded like a big truck. The truck was loud. And the whole house seems to be vibrating. And what accompanied that noise was a terrible pain. I felt a pressure on my chest. It felt like I was being electrocuted. And that terrible pain lasted for about a half an hour. And then someone was knocking on the wall where the valve was for the oil tank. And I opened the door and I looked out. And I saw this individual standing there in an oil man's uniform. And he looked a little younger than he does in this photograph. His face was thinner and he had a beard and he had longer hair. His hair came down to almost his shoulders and he was wearing a baseball hat. And his face was bright red, like he had been badly sunburned. And his eyes were pitch black. And he said, all set. And I said, so what? And I closed the door. Then he got in his truck and left. So I think that it is very strange that all of these people that I've either met, lived in the same building with, or seen over and over again, are all photographed with Kelly Marsh. So in this photograph, Kelly Marsh looks like she did in 2000 and 2001. She does have a photograph, and it's a picture of her and this individual. And Kelly has written underneath it, Happy Father's Day, I miss you. And last, there is this guy. And Kelly Marsh identifies him as her brother. And his name is Raymond Laughinghouse. And once again, she has a photograph that says miss you on it. And then there is another photograph of her and what appears to be the same guy. And there are a lot of comments that express sorrow and say that they will miss him also. So I guess that he has died. So I think that it is odd because there is no reference to Mike McCafferty, who she has a child with. So she has a picture of this guy who she's wishing a happy Father's Day to, saying that she misses him. And then there is this guy that she calls her little bro, and she has a photograph with another "I miss you" on it. Then she also has a photograph of a picture of Raymond on a table surrounded by a bunch of lit candles. So I guess it's another "I miss you" thing. She's lighting candles around a photograph of her little bro Raymond Laughing House because she misses him. But there's not a photograph of her husband, of her deceased husband, Mike McCafferty, who she has a daughter with. So he is definitely missing from her Facebook page at the end of December of 2020. I do not know if that will change in the near future, but she had no photographs of Mike McCafferty on her Facebook page in December of 2020. So this is a concern to me, that I have seen these people surface in my life in Shelton, Connecticut, then in Derby, Connecticut, then out in Portland, Connecticut. And then 8 months later, this guy is up in New Hampshire, in Newport, New Hampshire, So this guy gets around. It's almost as if I am being followed by certain people. So this is a concern to me when I see a photograph like this and I recognize all these people, one even having lived in the same tenement house as I did. So that's quite a family that Kelly Marsh has. So I really do not like to bring this next part up, but Mike McCafferty and Kelly Marsh had a daughter, and I really cannot remember how old she was in 2000. I'm going to guess around 5. One time I went over Mike's house and his daughter was sitting on the sofa watching TV, but I really did not pay attention to his daughter. So I'm going to guess that she was around 5 years old in the year 2000. So that would mean that now, in 2020, at the end of 2020, she will be in her mid-20s. So like I said, I located Taylor McCafferty's Facebook page, and there are 4 different young women who are identified as Taylor McCafferty. None of these people are Mike McCafferty's daughter. They're using that name, Taylor McCafferty, as one of their thousands of identities in the United States. So I am going to start with number 2. Taylor McCafferty, number 2, has been identified to be the adult film actress named Crystal Swift. Number 1. She is also known as another pornography actress named Dana Vendetta.
Yeah, and you were saying your friend is pretty good looking too, so.
Yeah, he alright, sure,
Well, you're saying he's got mad skills.
Well, that must be him, right? He answered your door.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Same thing, I brought the titles. She said,
Want it up?
nah, she can.
What's up?
That's what I got. I got interracial.
she is also known as another pornography actress named Dana Vendetta. And I'm going to guess that she was born around the same time as the real Taylor McCafferty, which is in the mid-1990s. While Taylor McCafferty was living, they probably had this agent meet her in a nursery school, as a neighborhood friend, as a cousin, so that Taylor McCafferty number 2 could go on to impersonate Taylor McCafferty number 1. So here are some photographs of Taylor McCafferty number 2 when she was a young teenager. And as you can see, she is very short. Here's a photograph of her standing next to Raymond Laughinghouse, who is her mother, Kelly Marsh's brother. Raymond Laughinghouse is around 5 feet tall. He has also been identified to be one of the men who act as Eminem, the rap artist Eminem. Raymond Laughinghouse is around 5 feet tall. He might be even under 5 feet tall. He has approached me several times throughout my life under different names. One of the names he used in Brookfield, Connecticut was Brian LaBarbera. He also recently used the name Kirby while working for a company called Bluin HVAC, which installed new baseboard heaters in my house. So this individual is extremely short. He may be under 5 feet tall. But that should give you an idea that she is a very short person. She is probably around 4 foot 9 inches tall. All of these people have mild dwarfism. These agents of the MK Ultra program will attempt to approach me, and they saw that I had found a video on an adult film website called X Videos, and the adult film actress used the name of Dana Vendetta. And since I thought that Dana Vendetta was very good looking, a few months later, I was at the Bank of America located in Keene, New Hampshire, and Dana Vendetta walked in and stood behind me in line. And at that time I noticed that she was exceptionally short. She was around 4 feet 9 inches tall. So they do not look that short when you see them in their films or on TV. But the truth is that all of the men are around 5 feet tall, and the women are around 4 foot 8 or 4 foot 9 inches tall. But you cannot tell when all of the people being used in the film fit that height range. They all look normal. But the truth is that these extremely wealthy people who are involved in the British media establishment are being born shorter and shorter due to their practices, which I previously described. So I do not think that this person is the real Taylor McCafferty. Mike McCafferty was around 6 foot 2 inches tall. It's hard to believe that his daughter would be 4 foot 9 inches tall. I think that Kelly Marsh, also known as Kelly Laughinghouse, was around 5 feet tall. Mike was 6 foot 2 inches tall. I really do not think their daughter would be 4 foot 9 inches tall. Next, Taylor McCafferty number 3 has been identified as another adult film actress named Anastasia Breeze. She also acts as Crystal Swift number 2. Once again, they're going to have 3 or 4 different agents all act under these names. So Taylor McCafferty number 3 has also been identified to be Melissa Etheridge number 2. So Mike McCafferty's mother, named Laura McCafferty, has been identified to be Melissa Etheridge number 1. So of course, they are going to use other women in their network, in their order, in their family, to act as Melissa Etheridge in different interviews, for example. This girl, identified as Anastasia Breeze, has been recognized to be my neighbor from East Point Condo Complex located in Waterbury, Connecticut. She was the older daughter of a woman named Kathleen, and Kathleen is believed to be Christina Monty, a woman named Christina Monty from Brookfield, Connecticut. She is another professional actor and agent of the MK Ultra program. And Kathleen lived in the same condominium complex as Rachel and I in Waterbury, Connecticut. And the condo complex was called East Point Condos. We moved in there around 2004, 2005, and we lived there until 2011. So this lady named Kathleen was this very skinny lady with extremely short hair. And I think I have a quick video of her. So what is of concern is her daughter. So when Rachel and I first moved in there, Kathleen's daughters were young. I would say about 9 or 10 years old. There was a younger one that looked a year or two younger than her older sister. So around 2010, Rachel asked the older girl to come over and watch our kids. And I was either working on something or I had to go meet Rachel at a job site. I would say the girl was around 14 years old and she was to come over and watch the kids. And I think I was supposed to stay there for a little while to make sure they liked their babysitter. And then I was supposed to meet Rachel. So the girl came over and they were playing in my kids' room. They were upstairs and I was downstairs on the computer. And I heard a lot of giggling and laughing, and they sounded like they were having a good time. So at this time, my daughters were 5 years old and 3 years old in 2010. And so girl A, Kathleen's older daughter, yells down the steps to me, or she walks halfway down the staircase and she goes, could I give the girls a bath? Because they say they didn't have a bath yet today. And I said, do you know how to do that? And she goes, yeah. So I said, sure, go ahead and do that. So she's running the water. And then I hear a lot of commotion. It sounds like the girls are jumping into the bathtub. And there are these loud booms and water splashing. So I walk upstairs and this girl, this 14-year-old girl, Kathleen's daughter, the older daughter, is watching my kids climb up on the side of the bathtub and slide down the end of the bathtub that's kind of slanted down where you're supposed to kind of have a backrest. And they're sliding down and they're splashing into the water. So my two daughters are taking turns doing that. And that is very dangerous. They could slip and hit their head. And I tell her, do not let them do that. That is dangerous. And Kathleen's older daughter is laughing hysterically like she's out of control. And she is kneeling by the bathtub. And I said, sit them down, wash their hair, and then take them out. And I said, are you listening to me? Because she is continuing to let them do that. And she is laughing hysterically. And I said, can I talk to you for a second? And she begins to crawl on her hands and knees toward me, like she is an infant. So she's crawling across the bathroom floor, and I'm standing in the hallway, and this 14-year-old girl is laughing hysterically, and is crawling on her hands and knees toward me, with this big, goofy, stupid look in her eyes. And I said, sit them down, wash their hair, and then take them out. And I say to her, is there shampoo in there? Because there's nothing in the bathtub. The shampoo is missing. And she says, I have shampoo. I said, you have baby shampoo? And she goes, yeah, I have it at home. So she runs next door and she comes back with a bar of soap that is bright red. And I say, that's not baby shampoo. That's not even shampoo. It's a bar of soap. And she's like, oh. And I said, let's just take them out and get them dressed. So I help her dry them off, and then we bring them into their room and we start putting the clothes on them. And I'm putting clothes on one of my daughters, and she's putting the clothes on my other daughter. And then my two daughters kind of drift over to where I'm sitting. And one is standing on one side of me, and the other one is standing on the other side of me. And I'm seated on a stool or on their toy chest. So at that point, Kathleen's older daughter has calmed down and has finished her little laughing fit and begins to say to me that you really are not the best parent to let the kids misbehave like that. She goes, I've never seen kids act like that in the bathtub before. And I said, I haven't either. I've been giving them baths for 5 years now and 3 years now, and they've never acted that way either. So she was about 14 years old at that time. So I have a daughter who's 15 now, and my younger daughter is 13, and they act like little adults. So I cannot begin to think why this 14-year-old girl that lived with Kathleen, that was Kathleen's daughter, why she would behave like that. I would guess that she is a victim of mind control and of an extremely bad parent named Kathleen. At that time, I thought maybe at 14 she's a little young to babysit. But now that my kids are 13 and 15, I could not imagine either of my daughters behaving like that or letting that happen if they were responsible for two little kids. So this is what I have realized over and over again, is that these are operatives raised up in a military secret society, and they are part of an MK Ultra type program. The military does not publish the names of all their programs concerning controlling the American public, but MK Ultra is one of them. So the American public does not understand the level of control that the U.S. military has not only over the government, but over all the people in the U.S. as well. And there is a huge amount of military agents, military operatives in certain areas around the country, and they practice mind control. So they start these kids really young because the military desires a race of dumbed down people who are easy to program and control. Some type of functional idiot that can completely lose control and lose touch with what she is doing and crawl across the floor. That might be the perfect type of 15-year-old girl that they could confuse and then molest and then say, okay, that's over now. Time to act like you're a mature, sensible girl again, after you get done crawling around the floor and doing whatever we want you to do. So you have to understand the military looks for people that are below average intelligence. So that is putting it lightly. They often have mild mental retardation and have to be coached and told what to say by a military handler. They have no idea how to care for young kids when they're 14 or 15.
So please know I the biggest, grandest hello.
Thank you. I was gonna say. 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 It was such a cold child. You enjoyed Halloween.
I loved it.
Did you have a go-to? I was a vampire every year after from kindergarten. Did you have a go-to? I was a vampire every year after from kindergarten. I was a vampire every year after from.
I was a vampire every year. I was a vampire every year. I was a vampire every year.
I just don't remember what the movie's about as much because I've only
Three
seen
Witches.
the movie Three Witches. I've been told that, and
Yeah.
apparently I'm not very bright. My character's not very bright, but I fly and sing, and I think I'd like to suck the life. I think I like to kill children. I don't know. I'd like to
Kill children, something like that. Yeah. Happy story.
But
So-
what I liked making the movie, and I love flying. Which
You,
I
you,
would
you know
imagine
you're not
if
actually a witch, right? You're not actually. How did they?
Why not? It's older. Too little for me right now.
Want something to drink, Ted?
How old has it been since you had a
Want something to eat?
Well, 7 years.
We had a sandwich on the
Already?
What's the road up here, John?
October 25th.
Okay.
Really?
Southwick.
That's good to know.
The chicken,
Oh, that's on my toes. Look at her long her toes are. Her fingers. We didn't get house back too. By the time we got through, we had to get our picture.
Good
taken, and
appetite.
We had to do all that. We didn't know the name. We had to do the name.
garden water out there, and
birth
gives you
certificate.
an appetite.
It's warm.
Well, we
I didn't even notice that they have a big sunflower left over there. I didn't even notice that.
They or you, the sunflower,
That's Rachel's.
the sunflowers are
Right?
blooming
See, I told
here
you.
in France.
Oh, they are? Those are beautiful.
The crocuses were blooming. It's like
Oh, this
they didn't know what they were doing.
You can't see because the
Springtime
light
in Paris.
making it disappear. That's what I said.
Eliza, can you say bye-bye?
Not as pretty as Eliza is, though, right? It's
No,
food
no one-
and-
Hi, sweetie pie.
No one's
How are
pretty
you?
as
Is everything
Eliza.
boring you?
Yes.
Oh, you're not getting no attention.
No, she's got home today, so she's been off for like a whole week.
Are you all sweaty?
So tomorrow we're playing hooky. She's not going to daycare, and
got a little
we're gonna
water
have a
fight.
family day.
Well, you got poison ivy. Is that why you're wearing long sleeves?
Yeah. all
How'd you get
over.
that?
I walked out to
Wrong place, the wrong time.
this bathroom in the woods. And
It was a bad plan.
But at least he didn't get it in the one place he could have gotten it, you know? Yeah. But it would have been away by now, but he scratches.
Oh, yeah.
And every time it's almost gone, he scratches. I told him I was going to tape all his fingers together.
Now, is this your mother and your father?
yes, yes.
Hi there, I'm John. Nice to
Nice to meet you. Kathleen.
came to the rescue of the big
So in 2013, I was living in Derby, Connecticut. I rented a room in Derby, Connecticut. And it was the summer of 2013. And I went down to a barber shop in downtown Derby. And Kathleen was working at that barber shop. And I said, I thought that you lived in Waterbury. And she goes, yeah, I do. I'm still at the old condo. But I work in Derby now. So it just so happened that even though Kathleen lives and used to work in Waterbury as a hairstylist, she now commutes from Waterbury to Derby, Connecticut to work in a barber shop about 2 minutes away from where I was staying. So these people continue to surface in my life. I continue to run into these people. I cut my finger chopping mozzarella cheese last night, May 24th, 2021. And I thought that I may need stitches. So I go to the ER and I'm waiting in the waiting room. And this woman walks in and she looks very familiar. And she sits across from me in the waiting room. And I realized today that that was Kathleen's daughter, her older daughter. So apparently Kathleen had been assigned to me. So I'll see them in Waterbury, Connecticut. And then when I move to Derby, Connecticut, I will see Kathleen over there in Derby, Connecticut. And then when I move to Keene, New Hampshire, that's 3 hours away, 2 states away, I'm going to run into these daughters of Kathleen because these are the perfect operatives to monitor you through the MK Ultra program. This is who they use. So these daughters of Kathleen are obviously victims of mind control. And I would guess sexual abuse, sexual-based mind control. After molesting them as kids and then having them join the military or having them join a secret society where everybody's just like them, the only thing that matters to them is their rank or place in the secret society. So this is what has taken over American society. This is how out of control your military is, and how out of control these secret societies are. So I'm going to skip over Taylor McCafferty number 4 and discuss Taylor McCafferty number 5 first. Taylor McCafferty number 5 has been identified to be another adult film actress named Liz Taylor, number 1. This is Kathleen, also known as Christina Monte's younger daughter. So Christina Monte from Brookfield, Connecticut, changed her name, took on a new identity, and became Kathleen. I cannot remember her last name, who was our neighbor in the East Point condo complex in Waterbury, Connecticut. So that is Liz Taylor. She is also known as Devon, who worked at the Project Genesis after-school program in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. So I located this during the production of an investigative documentary entitled Snuff Hill. It is about the town of Hillsborough, New Hampshire, which is located a short distance away from the state capital of Concord.
Right now we are at PG, and we're about to send this phone around to each and every kid here, and they are going to say one word of how
They feel about themselves.
About the what?
About themselves, the descriptive word.
Exactly. So, Devon's going to start it off because it is her phone. Go, Dev.
Alright, I choose honest.
And I choose loving.
Well, I chose energetic.
And I chose in love.
Oh my god. Alright, love you guys.
Take it.
So I will refer you to Snuff Hill for more information. That is a good documentary that exposes an area controlled by the MK Ultra program. And a lot of the strange things that you will find when you locate one of these areas and begin to do your own documentaries. These are some of the things that may stand out as not looking right. So it is up to you to capture them on video and make a documentary about it. So Kathleen's younger daughter has been identified to be the adult film actor Liz Taylor, also known as Devon, who works at Project Genesis in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. So when I lived in Brookfield, I knew this girl's mother as Christina Monte. When I moved to Waterbury, Connecticut, about a half hour away, Christina Monte changed her name to Kathleen. And then when I moved to New Hampshire, I would not be surprised to learn that Kathleen, also known as Christina Monte, also moved to the same area in New Hampshire, which is why we see her daughter now acting as Devon. So if you notice, every one of these girls identified to be Taylor McCafferty is involved in adult films. So this is the practice for these secret societies involved in the MK Ultra program.
And traditional gender roles can be tricky. You can't just rehash Kinsey. You're gonna have to come up with some alternative sources.
I know that. I actually have a good idea. I'm gonna write how big-breasted women manipulate men.
I actually have a good idea. I'm gonna write how big-breasted women manipulate men.
Really? How are you gonna do that?
Well,
So if you notice, every one of these girls identified to be Taylor McCafferty is involved in adult films. So this is the practice for these secret societies involved in the MK Ultra program. And the media, all of these people that you see on the news, all of these beautiful reporters, the weather women, the celebrities, the famous actresses, They are all involved in pornography. They are all involved in prostitution. That is part of their MK Ultra programming. They are all molested starting at a young age. And what the MK Ultra program has found, the ones that have mild mental retardation or extremely low IQs do the best at that lifestyle. They have no problem with that lifestyle. They will tell them something like, if you want to land that role in that upcoming movie, you better do a series of pornography films to win those directors over. You have to go sleep with all of these directors and all of those directors' friends, and then they'll choose you to play the role in their upcoming movie. So a lot of regular people may say that's a violation of human rights. That's a violation of constitutional rights. That is not a better business practice. That's something along the lines of sexual harassment. So that is why regular people are not chosen to act in the media, because this is what these secret societies are used to. Their network of little child prostitutes who are sex models for the MK Ultra program. They are professional prostitutes. And if you tell these girls to go date some good-looking guy, go meet him, go run into him at the bank, start a relationship with him, win his trust, move in with him, become his girlfriend, become his wife, these type of women will have no problem poisoning him, then handing their key to another woman, and then moving out of state, because that is what they're used to. They're used to being hired as prostitutes. They will do whatever they're paid to do. If you pay these Crystal Swifts, these Liz Taylors, these Anastasia Breezes to go poison their young husband, they'll do it. Some of them could be placed under mind control and they will black out and then attack their husband. These women, some of them are mildly mentally retarded. And the MK Ultra program can use radio frequency technology to hypnotize them so that they lose consciousness, they black out. It's like their brains go to sleep. And then a handler in the MK Ultra program could basically take control of their mind and move them around like an android. And they do this by connecting the handler to their android using radio frequency technology. The same thing as a television satellite broadcasting optical and audio information through the air that gets received by your television and then arranged into video and audio. The same thing happens in the MK Ultra program. They transmit particles that connects the handler to their android, and the android basically accepts the signal as their new personality. So the handler's mind overrides the android's mind. The android's mind, Liz Taylor's mind, Crystal Swift's mind, Dana Vendetta's mind basically goes to sleep, and the handler from a remote location will do the thinking for them. By closing their eyes, they could see through them. They could look through their eyes because their cranial nerves, their sensory nerves become connected. So these women could be controlled to do anything. Christina Monte's younger daughter, identified to be the adult film actress Liz Taylor, identified to be the actress Ruth Negga, is a Christina Monte clone. So on Christina Monte's Facebook page, there are 3 or 4 photographs of Christina Monte's daughter, Liz Taylor, impersonating Christina Monte, representing herself as Christina Monte. So what this says is that Liz Taylor is highly under the control of Christina Monte. This is what the MK Ultra program seeks to do, strives to do, which is to create doubles of themselves. So if Christina Monte's daughter, identified to be Liz Taylor, is not only adopting some of her personality traits or characteristics, but is essentially becoming a second Christina Monte, what this means is that Christina Monte is completely controlling her daughter. So Christina Monte is promoting her child, both of her daughters, to get into adult films, to get into pornography, if she has that much control over them. So I believe that Christina Monte is a very negative person. Christina Monte is a professional actress too. She too probably acts in pornography films, and she has no problem encouraging her children to act in adult films. And I'm going to guess that this started happening when they were still very young. So both of Christina Monte's daughters have become pornography actresses. So in one of these pornography films, Liz Taylor appears to be very young. She appears to be around 16 years old. So I'm going to guess that both of her daughters may have been involved in child pornography as well. That is what the MK Ultra program does, is it programs their youth agents, their children, into a pedophile-based secret society where the children are used as child prostitutes. One of her daughter's identities is an actress named Ruth Negga, who is supposedly a black actress. If you read the Wikipedia page, it says that Ruth Negga is from Ireland. So Ruth Negga is a made-up name. It's a name that the British military media establishment came up with. So this implies racism. This is a racist sounding name for white women to act as a black woman and use the name Ruth Negga as the black actress's name. If you change one letter in that name, it becomes Ruth Negga. So that is the type of people who are in the British military media establishment. They are pedophiles. And they are racist. These people from England are extremely racist. They always brag in England that slavery was never allowed in England. But the reason because of that is because they were too busy running the slave trade and getting all the slaves from Africa and then bringing them to America, where they sold them to the plantations, because all the plantations were in America. So those were English-owned plantations that they had all the slaves working at. and all the slaves were picked up from Africa by none other than English slave traders. So these people are historically the most racist people on the planet. And this is the nobility class, the aristocrat class from England and Europe. So if you notice, when Liz Taylor impersonates, when she changes into her mother, Christina Monty, I identify her as Christina Monty number 3. And that is because Christina Monty number 2 has been reserved for her younger brother, Pete Monty. So it seems that everybody who is placed around Christina Monty will become her clone, and this includes her daughter, or both of her daughters, and her younger brother. So this implies that she is trained as a CIA handler to groom and program younger children, and this includes sexual abuse. So Pete Monty has also been placed under mind control and handled by people like his older sister named Christina Monty. And when he gets older, he is a homosexual. So I believe that he too was being sexually abused and involved in pornography, starting with child pornography at a young age, just the same as all of these agents of the MK Ultra program. But Christina Monty is a very negative person. To be an agent who connects to younger people and induces them into a life of pornography and induces them to accept child molestation. And then when they get older, they all become homosexual. So Christina Monty also acted gay. So I met both Christina and Pete Monty through a guy named Tyler Kerr around the year 1996. So Tyler Kerr is an identity used by a dozen agents of the MK Ultra program. Back in the 1990s, the Tyler Kerr model was represented by a series of youth agents who were in their 20s and 30s. So the identity of Tyler Kerr is an identity which is controlled by the MK Ultra program, by older handlers such as Robin Williams, also known as Admiral Dennis Blair, who is the former director of national intelligence. Of course, he changed the way he looked so people would not recognize him as he went on to play another role for the U.S. military. But Robin Williams is one of the men that act as Dennis Blair.
That conflict ended with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but for another 33 years there were shooting wars in East Asia, from the Yalu River to Quemoy and Matsu to Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. Second factor, a general sort of war weariness in the region after the enormous convulsions of war during that time. People got tired of it. Leaders got tired of it. Down to Southeast Asia, in which the claims of China, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam all conflict. I don't mind calling out the North Koreans' leadership, and I don't think it has a real effect. I think what we're seeing here is a long-time North Korean pattern of taking a bunch of provocative actions that put them on a trajectory towards what might be a real confrontation with the United States.
and Craig Wason, also known as Mark Rolston, also known as Patrick Swayze, also known as Colonel Michael Aquino, who is the head of a satanic group or a satanic cult called the Temple of Set. So they were accused of pedophilia. Michael Aquino and his wife Lilith Aquino were accused of pedophilia by a young girl whose parents were stationed at the Presidio Army Base in San Francisco, California. Tyler Kerr's mother has been identified to be the actress known as Deborah Winger. Deborah Winger has also been identified to be a woman named Diane, who runs a daycare out of her house in Swansea, New Hampshire. So it was Tyler Kerr who introduced both Christina Monty and her younger brother Pete Monty to me. So as of now, 12 different agents have been identified to act as Tyler Kerr. So I believe that the agent acting as Tyler Kerr, who introduced me to Christina Monty, is an agent named Jon Stewart, also known as Mike Servideo #1, also known as the actor Matthew McConaughey, and he is mentioned in this report. Mike Servideo is the person who introduced me to Mike McCafferty.
I've been here before. Years ago. When I worked for another company.
Hey buddy, how
And
are
it was
you?
him. I met him before a long
how
time
you
ago.
been?
Good, you?
Good, thank you.
What was your first name again?
John.
John. Nice to see you.
Oh, well, it's good.
Yeah, I pulled up and I'm like, oh, I've been here before. I don't remember what I did or just looked at something maybe, but
I don't remember.
yeah, I was with I worked for another plumbing company before I was on my own.
Ah, nice to see you.
Good to see ya.
You always have cool logos.
Oh, good.
The other
Well,
one
that's
was,
on his van.
It was Bob Arayas he worked
Bob,
with, right?
yeah.
And he had like a guy holding like a cartoon character holding like a
Yeah, he had a guy that looked like him,
a
yeah.
pipe or something.
Yeah.
Oh, well, look at his.
I like this logo better. Is that
Oh,
you
thanks.
or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look outside, out front.
Yeah, that is cool, Justin. So is that your whole fleet look like that or?
No, I did have a couple old things. I have that and like an old ice cream truck style.
Ah,
thing.
cool.
I used to be a mechanic, so I like to build fun things.
Oh, you built that, huh?
Yeah, just working on it and tinkering and customize it.
Oh, that's not a hearse then.
It is a hearse, yeah.
Ah.
But it's good for holding all your.
Yeah, it holds a lot of stuff, yeah. Yeah, just give me an excuse to drive fun things all day. You know?
Mike Servideo is the person who introduced me to Mike McCafferty. I believe that the Tyler Kerr who introduced me to Christina Monty in the year 1996 may have been Jon Stewart, also known as Mike Servideo #1. So he drove to my house and he had Christina Monti with him. They knocked on the door and then they came inside for a little while. And then we all got into Tyler Kerr's car and we went for a drive. So during that drive, I remember that Tyler Kerr was rude to Christina Monti. He snapped at Christina Monti a couple of times for the comments that she would make. So he appeared rude, and Christina Monti grew quiet, as if she were intimidated of Tyler Kerr. So when you meet these agents like Christina Monti, her personality will seem meek at times. She was a very meek and quiet person. So that is a giant mark of what makes these people what they are. They will always back down to a corrupt authority figure. They will always back down to other pedophile agents. And then they will take their frustration and rage out on everyday citizens who are often made helpless or vulnerable. So they are bullies and they are cowards. They will never stand up to a corrupt authority. They will never stand up to a bully. They will never stand up to a tyrant. They are the people that will never do anything right. They will just go along with whatever everybody else is doing, even if it is dead wrong, just to get ahead. And then they take their frustration and their anger out on vulnerable and often weak people. And these vulnerable, helpless, and weak people are often children. They are a network of pedophiles, and they like to pick on children. They like to abuse, rape, and kill children. And then when you meet them in society, they are often quiet and reserved. That is the way Christina Monti acted in Brookfield, Connecticut in the year 1996. Very shy, almost awkward. So 10 years later, she had a different attitude. And by that time, she was used to handling the young girls, like her two daughters, identified to be Anastasia Breeze and Liz Taylor, who were both pornography actresses. So she was moving along through the MK Ultra program just as the other agents. They start off almost broken. They won't speak up for themselves. And then when they get older, they cannot wait to take advantage of other people. Because when agents like Christina Monti connect to their targets, they will begin to victimize them in the worst ways that you could imagine. They will do anything in their power to take away all of their rights. So this is why I say that these agents start off as broken people who are cowards, who will go along with a corrupt authority, who always back down to a bully or a tyrant. And then when they get older, they become the bullies and the tyrants themselves. The pornography actress Liz Taylor, who has been identified to be Christina Monti's younger daughter, around the year 2010, I walked up to the bus stop to pick up my daughter, and Christina Monti's younger daughter was already waiting up there, and she was staring at me, kind of glaring at me. And at this time, in 2010, she was around 15 years old. So I said hello to her, and she said, "You're not here to pick up Eliza, are you?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "Well, Rachel and my mom told me that I should do that." And I said, "Well, I just got a call. Rachel just called me, and she told me to make sure to pick up Eliza." And Kathleen's, also known as Christina Monti's younger daughter, Liz Taylor, seemed to become angry, and she was adamant that it was her job to pick up my daughter and that I should leave the bus stop. So at that time, I said to myself, the girl's getting older. She was given a little job to do, so of course I should let her pick up my daughter, if that makes her feel like a grown-up. So I kind of walked and stood a ways away. I walked down the street a little bit and allowed her to pick up my daughter and then walk her back to our condo. So I want to warn everybody, these people are not to be trusted. When these people act this way, it is a control thing. In a normal situation, that girl could care less about picking up Eliza. She was told to do that by her mother, Kathleen, and the reason for that was probably not for the best intentions. When these people are placed around you and you are targeted by the MK Ultra program, they look at it as every day could be your last day. Every day might be the day where they take over your life. And then they take these people, these agents who are trained to transform into other people, and they will physically replace you. They will move into your house and replace you. If anything happens to you, they will go to your house, get into your house, get your wallet, get your ID, put your clothes on, and they will physically transform into you. That is what these clones do. That is what these British military media establishment clones are trained to do. This is how they plan on taking over America. This is how they plan on wiping out the middle class.